Here's the top 3 news for today. First, Hong Kong activist jailed for 9 years in its first national security case. Second, Philippine president fully restored a crucial troop agreement with the United States. Third, China announces 64 additional COVID-19 cases as Delta resurgence continues in Nanjing. Hong Kong activist jailed for 9 years in its first national security case. Tong Ying Kit, a Hong Kong activist, was sentenced to 9 years in prison after becoming the city's first individual to be convicted under Beijing's national security legislation. The 24-year-old Tong was sentenced to a custodial prison term by the High Court on Friday, 4 days after he was found guilty of encouraging secession and terrorist acts. His sentence brings to a close Hong Kong's first-ever trial under the new security law, which took effect on June 30 of last year. Esther To, Anthea Pang, and Wilson Chan are among a group of judges selected by Chief Executive Carrie Lam to handle national security matters. Secession, subversion, collaboration with foreign forces, and terrorist acts are all punishable by life imprisonment under the security legislation. Since his arrest on July 1, 2020, Tong has been held in custody for almost a year. During a protest in Wan Chai, he was detained after crashing a motorbike with a banner saying, "Liberate Hong Kong, Revolution of Our Times," into 3 police officers. Tong was convicted to 6.5 years in prison for inciting secession, as well as an 8-year prison sentence for perpetrating acts of terror. According to the court, Tong will spend 2.5 years of his terrorist sentence concurrently with his 6.5-year sentence on the first offense, based on the totality principle. This means the activist will serve a total of 9 years in prison. Tong's main defense lawyer, Clive Grossman, informed the press that the conviction and sentence will be appealed. Madam Justice To, speaking on behalf of the judging panel, said Tong had shown regret when she handed down the punishment. However, since the activist pled not guilty, he was unable to utilize his stated regret as a mitigating element in requesting a lower sentence. If he had pleaded guilty, that would have been the greatest expression of such remorse, she said. To went on to add that, apart from a few minor traffic violations, Tong had a decent reputation. However, the court determined that Tong's character had no mitigating value since the crimes he was charged with were severe. The 3 judges expressed compassion for Tong's family members, who may be in a difficult situation since the prisoner was the primary breadwinner due to his mother's allegedly failing health. However, the court rejected this as a mitigating factor once again, saying, "These are factors which the defendant should have considered before starting on his illegal actions." According to the court's written decision, Tong's conduct of secession encouragement was of a severe character, under Article 21 of the national security legislation. Despite its gravity, the court determined that Tong's actions were not the worst of their type. The paper said that he defendant committed the crime alone, and that the slogan was a broad demand for the secession of the HKSAR from the PRC, without a detailed plan being communicated to the public at the same time. The court stated Tong's terrorist allegation was pre-planned, as shown by his complicated path, and how he deliberately defied police checklines. Tong's motorcycle was described as a lethal weapon, and it was only lucky that the officer's injuries were not more severe. The 3 judges also considered the political goal underlying Tong's terrorist actions to be secessionist. It is our opinion that such an objective attempting to undermine national unity has an additional criminality. Tong was also given a 10-year disqualification order by the High Court, which prohibited him from riding a motorbike during that time. The period of disqualification will run simultaneously with the jail sentence. "Heavy armor, we will wait for you," yelled several Tong supporters as the punishment was handed down. "Never give up." Tong's nickname was Heavy Armor. The activist was found guilty because the phrase, proposed by former localist leader Edward Leung in 2016 and popularized during the 2019 anti-extradition bill demonstrations, was capable of encouraging others to commit secession, according to the court. When Tong showed the sentence, he was believed to be attempting to convey the significance of the HKSAR's separation from China. When the activist refused to stop at numerous police checklines, the court found that he had seriously jeopardized public safety, and was attempting to intimidate the public in order to promote a political goal. On Thursday, Tong's attorneys pleaded with the 3-judge panel to be as kind as possible in sentencing him, calling him a nice young guy. According to the prosecution, the court may take into account commentaries and legal text from mainland China. To, Pang, and Chan, on the other hand, replied that the sentence will be based on the normal statutory readings. Friday's historic sentence may serve as a precedent for future cases and shed insight on how the city's courts implement the contentious legislation's tiered prison sentencing system. Hundreds of local and foreign media gathered outside the courthouse to see Tong depart in a prison van. Some residents attempted to catch the prisoner fleeing the courtroom by waiting outside the adjacent Pacific Place Mall and the Admiralty Garden. They did, however, get police warnings. Officers warned them that they may be in violation of the COVID-19 gathering regulations, despite the fact that one of the women who got the warning was alone on the mall's footbridge. The sentence, according to Amnesty International's Yamini Mishra, confirms concerns that the national security legislation is not only a tool to instill terror among government opponents in Hong Kong. It is a weapon that will be used to incarcerate them. The decision effectively bans a popular pro-democracy chant and may lead to the prosecution of a large number of other protesters who used it in the future. This alone is a foreboding indication of what the national security legislation may entail in the future. Tong should never have been charged with a crime that might have resulted in a life sentence. The city's security head, on the other hand, was pleased with the verdict. First and foremost, we are pleased with his conviction. In terms of his sentence, we will review the decision and determine our future steps. Following a year of pro-democracy demonstrations and turmoil, Beijing placed national security laws straight into Hong Kong's mini-constitution, bypassing the local legislature. Subversion, secession, collaboration with foreign forces, and terrorist actions, which were widely defined to encompass disruption of public transportation and other infrastructure, were all made illegal. The proposal alarmed Democrats, civil society organizations, and trade partners since similar laws have been widely utilized in China to suppress and punish dissidents. The officials, on the other hand, claim that the city is now stable and peaceful. Philippine president fully restored a crucial troop agreement with the United States. President Rodrigo Duterte of the Philippines has reinstated a key agreement regulating the presence of U.S. soldiers in the Southeast Asian country, according to the defense ministers of the two nations, reversing a move that had generated growing alarm in Washington and Manila. Thousands of U.S. soldiers are rotated in and out of the Philippines for war maneuvers and exercises under the terms of the Visiting Forces Agreement, VFA. As the U.S. and its allies deal with an increasingly aggressive China, it has taken on more significance. Delfin Lorenzana, the Philippine Defense Secretary, claimed he didn't know why Duterte changed his mind, but he made the decision after meeting with U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin in Manila on Thursday. Duterte's spokesman, Harry Roque, subsequently said that the president's decision was based on maintaining the Philippines' strategic core interest, and clarification of the United States' stance on its duties and commitments under the MDT, Mutual Defense Treaty. Because the agreement has not been cancelled, Duterte's decision will have little impact on the ground, but it will offer stability for both nations. This gives us confidence moving ahead, Austin said at a press conference with his Philippine counterpart. We can conduct long-range planning and various kinds of exercises. The Philippines is a treaty ally of the United States, and many military agreements rely on the VFA. After the U.S. refused a visa to a Philippine senator who is a friend of the president, Duterte threatened to end the agreement. He had, however, regularly pushed out the expiry date, most recently last month, and kept it in place until the end of the year. Having the capacity to rotate in troops is critical for the U.S., not just in terms of defending the Philippines, but also in terms of opposing China's aggressive conduct in the area. Duterte's decision opens up substantial opportunities for expanding the alliance that would have been closed otherwise, said Greg Poling of the Center for Strategic and International Studies. The Philippines and China have had long-standing disagreements over disputed South China Sea waters. The U.S. warned China earlier this month that an assault on Philippine troops in the South China Sea would trigger a 1951 mutual defense pact between the two countries. However, there are still concerns about Duterte's unpredictable behavior. Some of the joy is premature. The VFA will remain in jeopardy as long as Duterte is president, said Aaron Connolly of the International Institute for Strategic Studies. The Philippine presidential elections are scheduled for 2022. And although Duterte is not eligible to compete for re-election under the constitution, his party has encouraged him to run as vice president. China announces 64 additional COVID-19 cases as Delta resurgence continues in Nanjing. China's health authority reported 64 new coronavirus cases on the mainland for July 29, compared to 49 cases the day before. According to the National Health Commission, 21 of the new illnesses were local cases, compared to 24 the day before. There were no new occurrences of death. According to the authorities, Jiangsu province reported the bulk of the local instances. Nanjing, the province's capital, is now seeing an epidemic of the Delta strain, which first appeared earlier this month. According to the official Xinhua news agency, the outbreak was caused by unprotected airport workers cleaning planes after international flights. Authorities have performed extensive testing in the city since then, and the airport was closed on Tuesday. Hunan province has also reported 2 instances of the virus. In Beijing, 1 instance was reported. The new cases in Hunan were discovered after symptomless carriers from outside the province were discovered on July 22 during a live performance in Zhangjiajie. All attendees in the theater between 1800 and 1900 on July 22 were considered to be at high risk of contracting the virus by local authorities. On July 22, almost 2,000 individuals attended performances, with guests sitting at one-seat intervals, according to a story published on Wednesday by The People's Daily, a health magazine sponsored by state media. In addition, China reported 25 additional asymptomatic cases, up from 14 the day before. According to the report, mainland China has 92,875 confirmed coronavirus infections as of July 29. The number of people killed by the coronavirus in China has stayed constant at 4,636.